Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here today. We're going to give it just another minute or two to allow for more of our nonprofit friends to join us, and then we'll jump right into our agenda. Thanks for coming. Okay, it looks like that number of attendees is starting to slow down. We want to be mindful and respectful of everyone's busy calendars. So we'll go ahead and get started today. Hello and welcome. I'm Kim Koenig with the Oregon Community Foundation. We're joined by other teammates of mine, along with Kathy Webb from Nike. We'll do introductions in just a moment, but I wanted to take a quick second to just welcome each of you and thank you for spending part of your day with us. Each of you is here because you are doing something remarkable in your backyard. You're doing something incredible to get kids moving in community. And we, first of all, want to say thank you for that work that you are doing. Secondly, we want to let you know that we're so excited to learn more about the work that each of you is leading. And then our goal for today is to be able to answer your questions and help support you in writing the most competitive grant application possible. A couple quick housekeeping things. We're going to ask that you turn off your microphones for now. You are welcome to add questions into the chat as we go along, but there will be a Q&A session at the end of our presentation. With that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to this team for some quick introductions. And Kathy, I'll let you start.
Hi, everyone. So nice to see some familiar faces. I'm Kathy Webb from Nike Community Engagement Team. I'm so happy you're here to learn a little bit more about NCIF and how to make your application a little more competitive than those that aren't here today. I'll turn this over to my friend Felicia.
Hello, everyone. I am Felicia Tripp Folsom, and I am one of your NCI program coordinators. I will be here to provide you administrative support on behalf of OCF and Nike. And so just think about me as your personal helper. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adrian.
Yes, I'm Adrienne Livingston and I'm your other helper. So, anytime, and we'll make sure that you have the email. So, if you have questions or any thing that you need to reach us, we'll give you that email. And so, basically, it comes to both Felicia and I, and that we will respond. But we've been working with OCF and Nike on the Nike Community Impact Fund for the last 9 years. So, we're excited to help out this year. And I will turn it over to Peter.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Kukla. I'm the Associate Program Officer for Community Grants with the Oregon Community Foundation. I'm based in our Eugene office, but I help statewide, and this, particularly on this Nike Community Impact Fund program. I'm also one of your support folks, so I look at that email and help with some technical difficulties along the way. I'll hand it back to Kim for her introduction and the rest.
Thanks, everybody. By way of quick reintroduction, my name is Kim Koenig. I sit with the Oregon Community Foundation team, and I love that Felicia and Adrian and Peter all used the word support and helpers because that, again, is truly why we are here for this time together with you. I hope you'll take advantage of not only this time, but also the other resources that we have on our website and the email where we're also happy to answer questions after this. Let's take a look at our agenda for the day before we start into our official program materials. So we're breaking up this time together into two components. The first 30 minutes is going to be focused on the Nike Community Impact Fund program itself. We're going to give an overview. We're going to give answers to frequently asked questions. We're going to make sure that we have all the resources in front of you again to make sure that you're able to put your best foot forward when you're filling out this application. So again, the first 30 minutes is going to be concentrated on the NCIF program in general. Then, if you have capacity and time and interest in staying with us for another 90 minutes, we're going to be lucky enough to hear from Adrian and Felicia on more information about how to write a competitive grant application. If this is your first time or if you're an early grant writer, this is a great opportunity to get some insight from the professionals. And if you've been doing this for a while, you still might pick up some new tips and tricks from these two. So that's a peek at what we're going to be focused on today. Again, you're welcome to stay for the duration or leave midway if that's what your schedule needs. One more step before we get into our program, we're going to share a little bit of inspiration to set the tone for today. It wouldn't be a Nike program without a beautiful, amazing film to get us all excited. So let's take a look at why our future is a team sport.
Don't let our cute smiles fool you. We take play pretty seriously. But not all of us get the same opportunities to stay active, especially girls. With Made to Play, Nike is committed to getting all kids moving. But they can't do it alone. That's where you come in. Our future is a team sport, and we need all the players we can get. If you're willing, we're ready to show the world exactly what we're made to do. We were made for this. Are you?
Thank you. I love that video. So at Nike, it's our belief that every kid deserves the dream to play and to stay in sport. This is part of our ethos at Nike and our mission as a brand, to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. The future of youth sport is about driving participation and increasing retention in every kid. Why sport and why physical activity? Most of us know the research. Sport and physical activity are crucial for kids because they build strong bodies, improve mental health, boost brain power, and develops vital social skills and enhances body confidence. Why kids and why now? Globally, 1 in 5 kids gets the physical activity they need to thrive, with 81% of kids ages 11 to 17 being physically inactive. According to the World Health Organization, physical activity means 60 minutes of moderate physical activity every single day. Teens ages 14 to 17 are dropping out of sports at a high rate, with girls at 47% compared to boys at 31%. And participation gaps remain, with the two clearest disparities in youth sport participation being gender and socioeconomics. Too many children are still being left behind, and the gap is growing. Girls have 1.3 million fewer opportunities than boys to play high school sports. The biggest socioeconomic barrier is cost, with children from the lowest income homes playing sports in 2023 at half the rate of those from the highest income group. So the future of youth sport is now. I want to thank all of you who are on this call who are hosting sport activities for kids to help us close that gap and creating a lifetime of love, of movement for young people in Oregon.
So I will cover the grant program, starting with when it is the application window and then going to eligibility in those that are not eligible. So as you know, the application is open. It opened January 8th and it will close on February 17th. So again, if you have questions prior to then, please, you again will get the email. So send that to us and we will definitely respond promptly. You can find the application on the Oregon Community Foundation website under the NCIF program page, as well as on Nike. And we have the links here. And I know there was a question in the chat as far as recording. So anyone who has to leave early, this is being recorded and it will be put on the OCF page under NCIF. So you can always go there to access it again. Okay, as far as eligibility, the NCIF priorities are projects that deliver impact. We very much are interested in impact, not just the outputs. You can have an output that, in your programming, but what does that output lead to in impact? So focused on providing quality sports or physical activity. It does not have to be a sport. It's just as far as getting kids moving. And it's for all kids, addressing societal barriers that keep too many girls on the sideline. So that is a high priority for NCIF. The organizational requirements, it must be a 501c3, a federally recognized Indian tribe, or a government entity such as a school. If you have questions about that, if you're a government entity, please email us. And the geographic focus are 10 counties. The counties in Oregon are Multnomah, Clackamas, Washington, Yamhill, Columbia, Lynn, Benton, Marion, and Polk counties. And then in Southwest Washington, it is Clark County. All right. So as far as the amounts that we're giving, the minimum is $5,000 and the maximum is $25,000. And for 2026, we are giving a total of $550,000 out to nonprofits in our communities. Now, the counties that I mentioned, those are counties where Nike employees live and work. And so that's why they are priorities for Nike. And what is new for 2026 is that 100% of the funding will go to sport or physical activity. If you have received a grant within the past 24 months, to be competitive, it's like you can apply, but to be competitive, it must be a different program or it must reach a different audience. And for example, we've had nonprofits apply to us. So for example, one year, the program that they were wanting to fund was really targeting girls. The next year, they applied again, and then it was the same program, but it targeted all of their population from girls and boys. That wasn't competitive because it was the same program. And so the girls that had got service the year before could also receive the same service the following year. That was not competitive. So it literally needs to be a very different population, a different audience for it to be competitive. What is not eligible funding? Research projects, you can go ahead and put them all up. Sponsorships of fundraising events, support for elite or private sports camps, programs, or teams, individuals, especially when it's scholarships, stipends, fellowships, or personal assistance. And with that, your program, you might be used to writing your narrative and saying scholarship, but we know sometimes it's really a matter of you providing access to groups of youth, and it's just programming and you're making it accessible. So for this, I would really steer away from scholarship. If it's you're just helping all students and you want to make sure that they all have access, you're subsidizing them to be able to participate. So if you say scholarship, then you would not be eligible. So now, if it is true a scholarship, you're just scholarshiping students for your program, and oftentimes this is where we see elite nonprofits that have elite sports saying we're going to scholarship students. That is a true scholarship. We're not funding that. But if it's just your program funding many students and making sure that they have access to your programming and you're subsidizing it, to us, that's more programming. So I would not use the word scholarship. Now, if you do also have a program that is eligible for funding, make sure you do not in your budget include items that are not eligible. For example, stipends, fellowships, personal assistance. Make sure you also look at your budget when you're applying. We are not eligible as group or individual travel, one-day events, unless it is the focus of a project that culminates up to that one-day event. So if you have a culminating project, you're working with the youth throughout the year and it leads to that one event, that's eligible. But if it's only the one-day event, it is not eligible. What's not eligible? Endowments, budget deficits, or fundraising activities. When it comes to budget deficits, we do understand that sometimes when you apply, your budget might be in a deficit and you just haven't had your major fundraiser yet. So we do allow for a space for you to provide explanation. Please provide detailed information, explanation. And the question you need to tell us is, how will you meet that budget deficit without the NCIF funding? Whether it's cash reserves, whether you have a grant that's coming in, or you have earned income or an event, let us know how that will be met. So we know that we're not going to be funding that if we were to give you funding. If we think that our funding would fund that deficit, you would not be eligible for this cycle. Also not eligible are lobbying, political, or fraternal activities. We have one more page. Capital projects, unless Nike's award would be the final funding needed. So if you have a capital project, all funding needs to be committed, and it's just that final portion that Nike could then fund, and that would make it eligible. If you have any pending funding and it would not be the final funding, then your project would not be eligible. Organizations that discriminate based on age, ethnicity, race, political affiliation, religion, sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, physical or other disability, or national origin. Religious organizations whose programs do not have a secular or community focus. So if you are a religious organization and you do have a secular or community focus, you could be eligible. But if you do not, then you're not eligible. Projects and events that occur prior to a Nike grant award. If an NCIF grant was received in the past 2 years, again, as I mentioned before, it must be a different program or reach an entirely different audience. And then finally, projects and programs that do not take place within the 10 eligible counties, again, where Nike employees work and live, as I mentioned those counties prior. Next slide. Okay, so now I will turn it over to Felicia to go over the context and resources.
Thank you, Adrian. And so I do apologize if my internet becomes unstable. Adrian's going to be stepping in. I am trying to fix it. But the very first thing I want you guys to really think about is in your application review and data, OCF has the way they do the qualification for review is there's first a screening that happens first before it goes to the Nike Employee Review Committee. In that screening, it looks at eligibility and criteria that we mentioned prior. And from there, the ones that do qualify and move forward, you will see it go to the Nike Employee Review Committee. The two data points that we really want you to look at because they really focus on the priority impact that Kathy referenced earlier was the Oregon Community Foundation Research Report and Oregon by the Numbers. Those will be also given to the review committee that will determine the award. And so it's really important for everybody to know that the final decision makers are actually Nike employees. If you look on this slide, here was the group from last year that made the decisions. And so they will be trained to really look at priority populations. They will be trained on what impact that Nike is focused on, and is the impact that Kathy talked about earlier in this presentation. Next slide. And resources, it's really important that we give you the following resources. So if beyond just this NCIF grant, there are other opportunities for you to apply to Oregon Community Foundation. So we've put the Oregon Community Foundation Community Grant application. If you have questions regarding this particular fund, you can contact us at nikefund@oregoncf.org. If you also are looking for help for your organization, there also is a Nonprofit Association of Oregon, the People's Nonprofit Accelerator. And so all of those organizations can also provide assistance, not for this grant, but for your nonprofit. The other three eligibility Kathy is going to cover that Nike also has encouraged people to be able to apply to as well.
Great. Thank you, Felicia. So if you need product, for instance, you need running shoes for your girls running program, this is not a product grant. This is a cash grant. But I wanted to share with you a fantastic resource for you. Good 360 is an organization that we give loads of product to in hopes that our nonprofit communities around the country, our nonprofits and schools, can go to Good 360 and get free product. You can go online to their online storefront, choose product, and get the product you need for your programming. The great thing for you, it's not just athletic product, it's mattresses, home goods, it's all the things some of your families may need. So check that out at good360.org. We have a coach training hub, and we continue to offer more and more training on this coaching hub. So go to nike.com/coaching, and you'll find lots of materials to share with your sport coaches to be better coaches. There's some really great materials on how to work specifically with girls to get them off the sidelines and get them engaged in sport. So check that out. It's all free. And then I wanted to remind you that Nike offers an employee matching gift and volunteer rewards for all of our employees around the world. So if you have employees engaged with your program, remind them to use this. So we'll match them. We'll match their donations up to $25,000 a year. And we will, when they report their volunteer hours, we will give them $10 an hour that they can then return that to their nonprofit of choice as a gift. So we know Nike employees are super engaged in the Portland metro area, so remind them to use these great resources.
So does anyone have any questions at this point? I do see that there are questions in the chat, but we are opening it up for you to come off mic if you would like to verbalize it as well.
Hi, yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jill.
hi. Yeah, I am working with a team of people who we already have a capital campaign going, but I wanted to see if there was a space for this community grant, to help us. It's a camp that predates World War II that's been going, and it basically needs revitalization since the pandemic. So it's a camp that's in Malala. It serves underrepresented populations, both faith and non-faith-based programming. Sometimes Oregon Outdoor School is led there in the history of the camp. But basically, pandemic hit, all the buildings became dilapidated. And so we have an ongoing big capital campaign. But one of the pieces that we have not incorporated into the repair of the camp of the multi-year project is the gymnasium. And it's a big metal building, and it's like probably been built by somebody who's local in the area. But I guess, would something like that be qualified or not qualified? Because you were saying if it's the last piece of a larger campaign, so the impact of our project is going to be huge. We just don't know when it will be done because it requires a lot of renovation of the existing structures on the site out in Malala. So it's like a year-round camp, basically, serving our community. So yeah, that would be my question, is like the revitalization of a gymnasium, would that qualify?
Here, I can answer that. It depends on if it's the last funding in. So it depends. It has to be the last amount of funding to make that
In
project
in
happen.
an existing budget.
Mhm.
Okay.
For the project budget.
Yep.
And so so when we look at it, if Nike funding is the granted, that means the project has to be able to be happen.
Right. Right. So the other question, the other follow-up question, I guess, is there a deadline in the time frame that the project is completed?
1 year, it's in that year.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Randy, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Thanks. I have a situation we're looking at trail type connections in the community that don't exist to improve access for people to more walking and running. And in many cases, the need is just loads of gravel and maybe some fence repair type issues. But those are the missing elements. The labor exists. And so you mentioned capital projects and last dollars. So I wanted to get a little bit of clarity. This could be as little as $5,000 or $10,000 at most of, like gravel type stuff. We have volunteers that are going to install it all and have done the preparatory work to allow it to happen. But is that considered capital and is it considered last dollar?
I want to make sure, Kathy, I'm looking at you, even though I don't know, you might feel it. I'm believing it's capital. That's what I would say, but I know it's a little bit different. So, Kathy, what would you say?
I don't know. I think I could go with it as not capital, especially if you segment the trails from maybe the bigger project. Can the kids use those trails without other surrounding functions? For instance, is there a trail from A to B that would take $10,000 that would get more kids active? And you'd segment that out as its own project.
Mhm.
Then it makes sense to me. If you're doing 10 miles of trails
No,
and you
this is
just,
a few hundred
yeah,
feet.
yeah,
It's a few hundred feet that basically unlocks, 1, 2, 3, and 4 mile loops that
yeah.
otherwise wouldn't be available without it.
I don't know. I feel like it would qualify
Okay.
because it's independent, it's standalone opportunity for people to be active.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Felicia and Adrian, there's a question or two in here around travel. Um, if they travel from county to county, that does not eliminate them from from applying, correct?
That is correct.
Correct. But with any travel, just putting in the budget, you can list it in the budget. I just would not allocate NCIF funding to that travel expense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I can give a specific example. We have seen in the past where an organization tried to provide travel for a team to go to Las Vegas. NCIF would not fund that travel. That there was specific, if it's travel to do a very programmatic thing like a field trip, that is different. In order to do the program, that is different. That is a form of travel, but that's included in a program budget.
Yeah,
So we want to really give the specific difference.
yeah. Or like league play, they need to travel to different counties to play ball. Make that up. To play other teams. That's not really. That's not. That's not getting on a plane. That's not a big travel expense. That's just part of your programmatic budget.
Okay, I see it. Carrie, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, how are you? How is everyone? And thank you for having this. I am calling, well, I was gonna put it in the comments, but I decided that I would like to ask on here. My organization is a nonprofit organization, and we are looking to have do multiple sports. We have we have two staff members who play professional ball, one basketball, one football. Would we need to apply? Can we apply for two separate? Can the grant cover both of those, or could I apply for two separate grants for the initiatives?
I think I would honestly with that, if you can send us an email, if anyone has, because we're actually getting ready to start the grant writing portion. If you have specifics regarding your nonprofit, send us an email, because I actually might ask more questions so that we can make sure we're getting you the correct answer. I don't want to just answer so quickly here because of timing. So
Okay.
at this point, everyone else, I see that there are other hands up and that there are other questions. Please email us your questions, and give us as much as you can as far as specifics about your organization and the question so that we can properly answer.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So we will get started on the grant writing portion again. We invite you to stay around for the next 90 minutes or so. Again, it is being recorded, so it will be posted on the OCF website under the NCIF programming for you to access.
Hey, I do have one question that I think might be helpful for me, but also for others to hear. Is that okay?
Quickly, yes.
Yeah, okay. If I'm trying to just understand the difference between funding for a capital improvement or not. If I have an organization that's a PTA that wants to possibly fund painting a blacktop as one project, or funding after school programs like martial arts and soccer lessons and basketball lessons. Are either one of those considered disqualified?
You know what? Oh, Kathy, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Can you please email me? I want to make sure, again, you're asking it quickly, and I want to make sure I get all the facts before answering.
That's totally fine.
So email me, and we will get back to you promptly. Definitely.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Welcome. You're welcome. Great. Awesome. All right. So writing a competitive grant application, we know that many of you are at different levels. There are some that may be beginners, some that may have been writing grants for quite some time. What we're doing is we're providing a lot of foundational information. And again, if you're a beginner, this is great. If you're someone who's been writing for a while, Felicia and I have given feedback to organizations that have been in the community for a while and have found that even the information that we are providing here has been very helpful. You can go to the next slide. And keep going. One more. Yes. Okay. So with this, what we want you to see is the need outweighs how much funding we can give. And we know that there are so many of you that are doing great things in our community, and funders want to fund. That's the biggest thing I want you to know is we want to fund. We want to help our communities. That's why we're here. That's why we have the funding that is available. But unfortunately, because of how much we can give, of that need, it's only a portion that will and can be funded. And so what we're telling and sharing with you today is to help you have your grant application stand out and be the most competitive it can be. Next slide. So when applying, again, as I say, funders want to fund, really look at all the eligibility guidelines and the frequently asked questions. The fact that you're even here today is wonderful. I would say under the NCIF page on OCF, we do have the frequently asked questions that we have listed. Please go and review that. We can tell when individuals have not read the guidelines or eligibility. So that's one thing we highly advise, and follow the instructions. If you have questions, again, even if it's a small question and you're just not sure before applying, please email us. Research the organization, learn the past, the mission, the values, the focus. You can even look at past applicants that were funded to give you an idea of the types of programs that were funded. And as you share your narrative, have a plan, and please paint a vivid picture of your plan. The next slide we're talking about, well, we'll talk about SMART goals and the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And really, this helps to paint that vivid picture. Oftentimes, this is what's left out. We get more of the periphery, the surface of telling us about the program, but it doesn't go down into showing us what the program is. What you want is to have the reader actually feel that they are a participant in your program. And I know if it's a camp, it's 5 days. At a camp, it is Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 a.m. And you're going to lay out specifically the different classes or activities that you are going to be doing with that group. So in that, being clear, concise, and brief, we do know that there is a character limit. But within that, you do really want to spell this out. It's almost like a business plan, if you will. Next slide. And here's just one example. As you see, we're looking at with the who, what, when, where, why, how, placing it under the SMART goals. So being specific, being measurable. Is it achievable? Is it relevant? And is it time-based? So for example, under specific, what is the issue or problem being addressed? And when we say that, we're not asking about your organization. This is where you can give the context and help frame it for us who are reading your proposal. What is the issue? We're not on the front lines like you are. So you get to take this as an educational moment to educate us. And then we're saying, how are you going to address it? What exactly is the plan? Next slide. So for the questions that we have for NCIF, we're not listing all, but here's some of the salient ones. What need does your project address? Describe the critical community need or issue your project plans to address and the population or populations to be served. How will you address this need? Please provide a brief narrative about your project. Include details of what specific activities and strategies will you employ in addressing the issue and why your organization will be effective. If you are planning to use a model that has been proven to be successful elsewhere, please tell us about it. With this one, pay attention to everything we list. When we say, how will you address it? When we say, give us specific activities and strategies, I'm calling this out because this oftentimes is what's missing. Just go in and answer those questions. When you're writing it, don't worry about how, is it pretty, the grammar. Just answer the questions first and then go back and fill in the transitions and everything that you need to add to it. Next slide. What will success look like? Identify the specific measurable outcomes you anticipate as a result of project activities and outline how you will measure project success or impact. Again, it's not just about the outputs. It's not just about the activity. It's what the activity leads to. So making sure that you are also adding in those measurable outcomes from not just the number of students that will participate in the program, but you can do the kind of the quantifiable outcome, measurable outcomes of 90% will have played this sport for the first time, 85% will learn how to manage anger management, stuff like that. Please help us understand the impact that is made from your activities of what you're doing with your audience. So the first thing that was NCIF. Now at this point, we're just going to talk about the components of a grant application because oftentimes many grant applications have all these components. So this may not only help you with the NCIF grant, but hopefully it helps you even with other grants. The first category is the organizational background. Next slide. So as far as some questions that we have are, what is your mission and purpose? When the nonprofit was founded? What are your programs and services? And what are your pertinent accomplishments? So with this, we always also encourage people to have a grant template. This typically stays the same for the majority of the grants that you write. Obviously, you do update it here and there, but this would be something that in that template, it pretty much is the same. So the next slide will show an example of this. So here's one. We know that this year, again, the funds will go to 100% sport. Even though these samples are not sport related, it still gives you the content that you would need to put in your applications for your programs that are for sport or physical movement or activity. So it shows the mission is very quick, help homeless youth with other marginalized people move towards improved health and self-sufficiency. Their healthcare for homeless, federally qualified health center. The things that my eyes just go to quickly, it's a local county homeless youth continuum and improved veteran affairs patient-centered community care program provider. They work with young adults aged 16 to 18 that experience homelessness. They have a drop-in day program serving 3 meals a day, education, employment training and placement, and comprehensive primary care in our clinic. And they are trauma informed. The reason I'm not reading this whole thing is because I want you to see how in a paragraph, I can really pull out those points that answer our who, what, when, where, why, and how. In this, they were brief and concise, and it answered the question. Next slide. So then the next one, Felicia will go over the problem, issue, community need. You have to turn your mic on.
Thank you, Adrian. I was trying, it was so slow. Next slide, please. Yeah, so one of the things, again, that Adrian talked about was smart, specific language. And it's really important, this is when we're reading it, can we understand the issue or problem you're trying to address? Can we see where this issue or problem exists and what population does it impact? And who is the primary target audience? Those are the things when we're reading for that particular paragraph, we are looking for the what, where, what, who. So what is the problem? Where is it? What is the population impacted? And who is your primary target audience? And it's very, very important that you show us that the primary target is, of course, youth, and which youth and where the youth is located and which specific problem with this group that you're trying to address. And one of the things we always like as well is what kind of brief stories or quotes do you have that demonstrate this work that you are doing and addressing? And again, what I would say in this area, again, is when you're reading it back to yourself, I always encourage the grantees to read it back to themselves. Did I address the issue and problem? Do I see that? Do I show where it is? And did I show that the population I'm working back with is being impacted by this problem? And do I show how I'm addressing this target audience? If you can demonstrate that back to yourself, then you know you've answered this question. Next slide. And I am so sorry, you guys, my internet is super, super slow right now. But one of the things Adrian did say earlier, this isn't necessarily a youth-oriented program per se in the way that is addressed in the way that Kathy says has been our priority population. But for example, you can see our community of 23,000 residents, so it's showing you really what kind of community they're in. Our 4 local childcare facilities closed in the last year and impacted 100 families. Their goal is to double their childcare capacity to help reduce the childcare shortage. And then right now, the existing and they need it by and how is existing space to build 3 new classrooms. A significant positive impact on working with parents and local employers. So again, they answered the who, the what, all in this one paragraph. It's very clear that the problem, issue, and community need has been addressed. Next slide. And so another thing that we have shown, which is also related to actually youth, is in in this one, it says a 2011 report from the Women's Sports Foundation showed 4 million fewer opportunities for girls to participate in sports as compared to boys, which Kathy brought up earlier in the NCIF grant. Girls who play sports have a higher level of confidence and self-esteem, lower levels of depression, and getting academic outcomes. They also learn important life skills like teamwork, goal setting. This again, they have addressed it in a very concise way of the population they're working with, why they're addressing this population, and how them working with this population will make a difference. Next slide.
Well, don't go to the next one yet, Peter. Okay, so I'm gonna invite everyone just to close your eyes because I want to read something to you before you see the picture and the image. So I'm gonna read. Don't move. Peter, I'll let you know when to move forward. So the image is before a round table, a light-skinned brown little girl wearing a bright pink shirt has brown hair that is worn in cornrows. She is standing next to a seated light-skinned brown woman with short ringlet curly hair, wearing a light gray button-up sweater. She holds a thin paintbrush in her right hand that is hovering over a yellow image on a sheet of paper. The girl gazes down with a smile on her face. That's 77 words. Now, knowing that I may not have that amount of space to write, I'm going to synthesize it down. A little girl is standing next to a seated woman, both gaze down at a painted yellow hand on a sheet of paper. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, so the reason I did this activity, so there's something called audio description. What audio description is for someone who is blind or low vision, that they too want to go to live theater, they want to watch TV or film, but you know, sometimes dialogue does not indicate everything that's happening in the scene. So you have someone who is an audio description narrator that narrates between the dialogue what else is happening, whether it's on stage, whether it's in TV or film, so that that person who is blind or has low vision can get a better understanding of what's going on. And so that first one that I read, again, 77 words, if it was TV, I wouldn't probably have 77 words, that amount of time to actually say that. So that's why I had to go down to a shorter description and really get the main points so that that person still understands what's going on. The reason we include this activity is because it's the same in your grant writing. You have to, again, as I mentioned in the beginning, painting a vivid picture. You have to, with your words, create a picture of what is happening in your program. And again, we know that there are character limits. So sometimes you might have space in one grant application to write a longer description, whereas in others, it has to be short, but you have to be able to point out and pull out those salient, those more important cues so that the person really can see your program. So what we would like to do, can you go to the next slide? Oh, actually, yep, we don't have the other activity. So typically would love, there's another picture that we would put up so that you get to practice, but that'll be another time. So as far as the project description and being descriptive, you know, why is it important to address this issue and problem? And you can say, why now? You know, think of what's happening in our country. Oh yeah, that is, well, we'll get to that. Okay, no, let's go back. Yeah, let's go back since that we did have that there. Go back to the pictures. There we go. Okay, this is what I wanted. All right, so I'm just going to give everyone like 30 seconds. For those that would like to participate, and I hope several of you do, you can choose whichever picture, but take about 30 seconds and just put in the chat describing one of these pictures. You can select one and just put it in the chat, and I will read out some because this gets you to practicing getting that detail. And I think it helps even as you start to learn. If again, you're a beginner, if you're not a beginner, maybe this is just another activity where it's just practicing writing that detail so that me as a reader who does not know your program can literally imagine myself in your program. So we'll just give you about 30 seconds and just start putting it in the chat when you have it. I know we don't have shy people because if you're on here, you're grant writers, and so you're writers. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with. Two young astronauts standing on a stool, staring at something amazing. As the little girl gazes intently at the paint she can choose from to create her design, the creative neurons in her brain are actively firing. Two young children dressed as astronauts are playfully standing on a step stool, pointing off into space with wonder. Awesome. All right. Thank you all for coming up. Those are great. They were vivid. I could literally close my eyes, and if I wasn't even looking at these, I could actually see that in my mind's eye. So this is what we encourage you to do as you were writing your proposal. Two children dressed as astronauts stand on a ladder, are captivated by something in the distance. And so see, people are taking a different, wording choices, but it's really capturing the image. Okay, next slide. Thank you so much for participating in that. I really appreciated that. Okay, so back to why is it important to address this problem or issue? You think of this day and age right now that we are living in, and immigrant and refugee, you have kids being torn from families, and you can talk about that, really specifying the urgency when something is happening in our day and time. If it's urgent, making sure you're putting that in there. What are you now doing to address this issue or problem? Felicia talked about really defining the problem. Now we're asking you to say, what are you as an organization doing? What are you doing to address this? What population or populations are you targeting? How are you going to address it? What exactly is your plan? This is where we want that detail. How will you implement it? What is the timeline of your project? What change will happen because you have addressed it? It's not just a matter of you addressing it. We want to know what change will occur because of it. What is that community impact? And this is where you can, as Felicia mentioned, you can include client stories and quotes that demonstrate it. So next slide. Okay. Here's an example, Jackson County. So we see exactly where it is. They're expanding their immigrant and refugee youth community, and that there are overall gaps in their educational opportunities, and they want to impact graduation rates. So we see that up front. They are expanding their outreach and their programming, and they're including grades 5 to 8, and they're opening their facility in the morning before school hours and on Saturdays, so that they can get the support from other immigrant and youth families. So, so they complete the work assignments and receive support. So with that, and as you see, this is a short paragraph. They were very detailed in that. It really answers for us the questions we want to know as the audience, giving, and we know it's grades 5 to 8. And again, being as descriptive as they can to help paint that picture for us. So I know it's bright and early in the morning that we'll be working with these youth as well as on Saturday. So as much as you can, provide that detail so that I can see, and again, in my mind's eye, what you're doing in your program. Next slide. Now here is another description of a curriculum. It's 7 modules, and it's specifically addressing girls who are vulnerable to predators that exploit longings, normal longings for human connection. Each module is 90 minutes, includes some self-defense. They list the different categories or the that they'll be teaching in these modules, and that through the funding period, they want committed long-term partnerships with 10 organizations, that they teach those organizations to facilitate the curriculum. So in this snippet, we see a lot about the curriculum and program that they're doing with their audience. Next slide. And so Felicia will continue with achievable and relevant.
Thank you, Adrienne. Next slide, please. And so this is one of the things that is a really important part of your grant application. So I want to tell you that to really focus on this area, because the how, the who is really important, and the what and the why here. How are you as a nonprofit uniquely qualified to address this? So we are going to be looking for that. Who in your organization's involved, and what is their background to make them qualified to do this work? And if you have partners, who in the community are you collaborating and partnering with? And what challenges might you face, if any? And how would you, in collaboration or by yourself, address this issue? And then most importantly, how do your goals align with your mission and your purpose? And why is this particular time the right time to address this issue or problem? And what might be impacted if you don't address it? So we want to know why it's the right time at this moment. And if it doesn't get funded, what will be the consequences or the outcomes that come from that? And with that, next slide. Adrian, my screen is frozen.
Okay, so the sample that shows that their audience is elder LGBTQ plus community that they serve. It shows their current space only consists of 3 shared staffed offices, and that there's a shortage of closets, of gender neutral bathrooms, and that they have, when we reserve outside meeting rooms, it has been proven difficult to find inclusive spaces that offer the gender neutral bathrooms, and adding the meeting room to their facility will create permanent, inclusive, and accessible space, and it will increase participation. And it's available to partner organizations that are challenged to find safe and accessible spaces. And again, just pulling out those descriptives that really help us see who they're helping, that it is achievable and it is extremely relevant. And it not only impacts them, it impacts their partners. And the fact that it will also increase participation, it's making an impact in the communities that they're serving. So again, hopefully that you're taking from this the detail that we're really encouraging. Next slide. Can you see it now, Felicia?
Unfortunately not right now.
I will continue. I'll go back to time-based. Yes. All right. So it being time-based, what is the timeline of your project? When is this happening? And as we mentioned for NCIF, it has to start after the funding. It can't start before. For our funding. And why now? Is there immediate need? Tell it. Just like I mentioned before, sometimes the difference between getting a grant and not getting a grant is because of timing and the urgency. Is it realistic? Can your organization really do this at this point in time? Can we tell that you have the capacity and the right skilled, qualified people to do this? Can you meet your measurable goals within the time frame that you listed? Next slide. Okay, so going on to the measurable outcomes and impact. And just, that one drop has ripple impacts. And we want to know from what you're doing, the impact that you're making. And not just that it may impact your organization, it may impact your partners, just as that other example that that I just read. Next slide. So of the primary target audience, what are your specific quantifiable goals? Also, How will you measure your goals? You can bullet point these. What I like to say, if you're able to, think of this as architecture for your reader's eyes, not just having it all in paragraph form. If you can bullet point. If the application, because we know sometimes online doesn't allow you to do that, list it as 1, 2, 3, so that our eyes can easily find what you are listing out. So what qualifiable outcomes will be accomplished? The soft skills that are sometimes hard to measure quantifiably. And that's where I gave the example, 90% will, let's see, learn to lift weights properly. And that means, to me, if someone is lifting weights properly, that means you're going to minimize the accidents or injuries of them participating in that sport. So anything that you can do to help us see, again, you hear me continuously say it, is the impact from your activities, list that. Just don't say, and we've had this, and we are happy that kids have fun. We're not saying that they don't have fun, but that's not a measurable outcome. We want to see the specifics. Now, if there's a secondary audience, sometimes it's parents. What will you be doing with them? It's maybe parents are learning because they're there and they're monitoring the kids, and you're giving them information that can help their kids at home play an activity or a sport. You can also put that secondary audience, but really, especially for this fund, we're saying 100% sport or physical activity of kids. So that is the priority. So that would, for us, that is the primary target audience. Next slide. Okay, so for example, quantitative, secure 10 to 20 partnerships with organizations to implement the program. 25 to 50 staff will be trained. 150 to 250 girls will be educated and led through the program. 50 to 100 parents will be taught about the issue. So those are, quantitative, whereas qualitative, girls will be able to recognize if someone's trying to groom and recruit them. Girls will be able to learn and practice using their voices and asserting their boundaries. Recognize signs of someone needing help. The only thing that they didn't put here is kind of like the percentage. This is saying all girls in a sense, but your program, if you're collecting data, especially if you're collecting data, it is nice to see those percentages, as I mentioned before, like the 90%, 75%, et cetera. But here's just an example of what qualitative outcomes can sound like. Next slide. And so this one, the success of the project will be measured based on their ability to achieve the following objectives. They will officially hire their first paid executive director. There will be 35 youth who participate in their program. The youth in the program will participate in 35 trips to culturally relevant sites around the U.S. Go one back. 100 youth attending the camp. They will have that, and the increased visibility and access to college pathways. That's another sample. Next slide. Okay, so now going into budgets. Okay, so we had there's the operating just for your organization budget. There's your capital project budget or a project. And this is the organizational budget is just a guide that helps, obviously, nonprofits plan for their future as well as current financial health. That's what we're really looking at, your current financial health. And as we mentioned, budget deficits, if you have a deficit, just explain how you will meet that and that it will be met without NCIF funding. Please show both income and expenses. We've seen budgets that only show expenses. We also want to see the income. If you have any in-kind services, please make sure you put that both in income and expenses. So at the end, it zeroes out its balance, and show categories and line items that are very clear. And I'm going to show an example. And your board should be giving 100%, whether it's $5 to $5,000. If a lot of funders want to see that not only are your board members helping with their skills and their expertise, but that they're also financially giving. Because if they're not willing to give to your organization and they're on the board, why should I, as a foundation, also give? So oftentimes I see nonprofits that they'll say, well, our board members are already contributing their time. Foundations really do want to see that 100% of your board is giving. So I really encourage that. Next slide. So here's just a really simple, clean picture of an annual budget. As you see, it's just the categories, the individual donors, the grants, sponsorships, events, etc. There's that in kind of 7,200, and you go down to expenses, and you see under the program staff, it lists the titles, and then you see under program, it lists the different categories, and then under office cost, it lists the categories, but it says which ones are in kind. So I can see, okay, you have your rent, you have your utilities, phone, etc., and then the maintenance and repairs. And when I calculate that, that does equal the 7,200. So at the end of the sheet, your budget, I see that that actually zeroes out. So then what I am left with is a cash balance. Next slide. And if you would like a simple budget format, we do have it listed that you can download the template and use on the OCF website under the NCIF program. So you can use that template there for your budget. Next slide. Okay, so the project budget, really, again, showing the categories. This helps us as a committee if we are funding your program and say we can't fund the full program, we can look and see, okay, for the most part, we do try to give full funding, but maybe we can't fund it by $5,000. We don't want to jeopardize you doing your program by taking away so much funding. So we go to your project budget to say, oh, no, we see that, in your project budget, if we were to reduce it, you're asking for 25,000, but if we gave you 20,000, looking at your project budget, we could see that, oh, this would really still significantly help them and not hinder them from doing their program or their project. So looking at that budget and the different line items is extremely helpful. And we say use real estimates, and you can, in your budget, even have a column where it shows, for us, and I'm going to use NCIF funding, but it could be any foundation that you're applying for, is you can have that column saying, this column is showing where NCIF funding would be allocated. So I see whether it's, for the staff to run the program, for if it's a capital project, where specifically you would be allocating those funds if you were to be awarded. That is extremely helpful. We also do want to know in there what is committed, approved, what's pending, and where you will apply to show that NCIF is not the only funder. We do like to see that you have other support from other funders, whether it's foundations, individuals, earned income, interest, all those. So we'd like to see that and really be realistic about the amount that you're requesting. If you need 25,000, ask for 25,000. But if you really only need 10,000, ask for 10,000. We can tell when an organization needs only 10,000, but they're asking for 25,000 because that's the max. We really can't tell that. So if you, again, only need 10,000, ask for 10,000. But if you need 25,000, ask for that, because really what the budget is a numerical representation of your narrative, and they need to match. Okay, next slide. And Peter, can you let Felicia in? She is in the waiting room. Okay. So here is a sample project budget. As you see, I see the income and expenses, the line items are there, the amount, and then OCF Foundation is that column where I see where the OCF funds would be allocated if we were receiving the funding, and I can see of the income what is committed there. Okay, next slide. And going on to the board list, next slide. one thing that OCF values as well as NCIF is diversity. So we do like to see that you have not only diversity of ethnic groups, but are the individuals that you're helping, are they also on, helping you? Are they volunteers? We want to see the diversity, whether it's age diversity, disability. So we want to see that it's not just a group of people dictating what another group of people needs without seeking their input, and that they too are not engaged. We want to see that engagement as well. So really be mindful of that from, when we're asking about your partners and about your staff and board, do they reflect the community also that you're serving? Next slide. And as far as supplemental documents, let's see, I know one year we received around 225 applications. So I'm telling you that so that you can put yourself into the shoes of the reviewer. Be mindful of how many supplemental documents you are including. You can go to the next slide. And that making sure with the supplemental documents is to strengthen your narrative grant proposal. So whether it's a letter of support, whether you're using a logic model and you want us to see what that logic model is, if you have a newsletter or video, blog support, anything you provide, it should really help to strengthen what you have already submitted in the narrative of your proposal. I'd say no more than 3, because again, imagine of the 225, maybe only 25 to 30 will be funded, and you have a committee that's reading all of these applications. And so you want to put yourself in our shoes to help us. And I've seen sometimes where people just submit so many support documents, but they really don't help to strengthen, what the proposal is. It's just, okay, if you might have 3 to 4 letters from other organizations and you have, a newsletter, all of a sudden you're getting into 7 different support items. Choose the best 3 that help. You don't have to have, if one organization wrote a really strong letter of support and they are known in the community, submit that one. So really determine what is the strongest for your application. Next slide. And diversity, equity, and inclusion. That takes intentionality. And again, does your board reflect the community? Does the staff? Do you intentionally serve communities of color or other diverse communities? Is there representation on your website and your other communications? Who are your partners? Not just partners in organizations, but consultants, contractors. So with this, it does take intentionality. Next slide. So final thoughts. You can mirror the language funders use. That says a lot. Look at what they're saying, and you can see where their values are just by even reading the questions. And is the layout clear and easy to read? Even though I'm also a grant writer and been doing it for a while, I always invite others who don't necessarily know my program to read what I wrote. And I ask them, do I answer the questions? Does it make sense? Are there any red flags? Is there anything I put in there that you're concerned about? That does it show that it is relevant during this time? Does it connect to the heart? I like to say with grant writing, it is both, it's fact and heart. You want to get all the facts in there, but sometimes if you only do facts, it can be very dry. But you also want to connect to the heart. But if you only have the heart, then you haven't answered, why is this relevant? All of these things. So it's a melding of the two. And truly, does it answer the who, what, when, where, why, how questions? Does it give the detail? Use as much space you need within the parameters given. So sometimes, even if it's 500 words you're given, if you can answer it in 300 words, take 300 words. You don't have to fill up another 200 words just because you have it there. But if you need the full 500, use that 500. And we encourage using strength-based and goal-based language. Not we wish to accomplish. No, we will, And really, again, as I mentioned before, ask for what you need. Next slide. I think that's it. Okay, so now we will open it up to questions.
And I might add before anyone comes off mute, I think the best use of our remaining time is again to keep the questions more general in scope. And then if you do have specific questions about your individual program, as Adrian and Felicia have indicated, they want to make sure they're understanding all the details. Let's go ahead and treat those through an email so we can make sure we accurately answer them. Does that sound fair, Adrian?
Yes. And so just put up your hand emoji and we will call on you. Unless we answered all your questions. See anyone coming up? Let's see. And are there any in the chat team that we need to?
I see Jacob I saw Jacob's hand go up first. Jacob, if you want to chime in.
Yeah, and I can always just email this too. I put it in the chat because I was nervous, but now that there's a little less people, I'm willing to ask. I was just wondering, so my nonprofit is a personal training business where I train kids for free, and I'm wondering if we did get a grant and we would only request like 5,000. We don't really need a lot because there's not a lot of overhead, but I was wondering if I am able to pay like volunteers that are the people that are willing to help me with this. I don't know if that makes sense. Cause I thought I had seen something where like grants can't go to stipends. So I was just wondering about that. Like where would like if I did the grant, would it all just be spent on equipment then, or how would I best use that, I guess?
Yeah, it can go to pay staff and trainers. So
Okay.
we're talking about individuals, like a student that gets a scholarship or a stipend for something. This is if it's something to run your program and that you are hiring them to actually execute. Like without them, your program wouldn't run. So
Right.
So if you're hiring them to help you, that is an eligible expense.
Okay, because I would be the head trainer.
So if
But
you're
I
hiring
shouldn't.
trainers, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then one last thing. Sorry. When we do the budget, I thought I had heard you guys say that you can't include like paying people, or was that the scholarship deal too?
That's more of the scholarship.
Okay.
You know, and the thing is, if there's something in your budget that, say, going back to the travel, even if it was out of state, you can add it in your budget. But I just, under the allocation of our funding, I wouldn't put our allocation under that line item. So again, if you have that column where you show NCIF funding where you would want to allocate it, you can then under those, you could put like, 5,000 would go to trainers. So we could see exactly where you would place it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Alana?
Yes, I had also put my question in the chat, so not to double up, but I was wondering if when it comes to staff costs, is there kind of a parameter that we should confine ourselves to with that to not be maybe too staff heavy? Is there any preference there?
No, this is again where the narrative and the budget just need to match. If the majority of the staff, you're running a camp and you need staff to run the camp, if that's what you need, ask for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll just say, funding for staff and overhead, that does not scare us. We know you need that. We know the lights have to be on to offer programming. So don't be afraid to just keep it real.
I see that Phil has a question. Hi, Phil. I can never find the hand raise button either, so I can empathize.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for this time. It's been incredibly helpful for us. I represent Mobility for Kids, and we work with children in schools and children's hospitals in providing mobility. On the video, first of all, that first video you did, you really want to get involved and almost, well, cry with it. So we believe in the power of story. I saw that video is allowed. How does that get implemented into the proposal? Is there a separate link or is there a URL? Typically, we'd use something like Wistia or Dropbox or something like that.
Kim, what is the best? Kim and Peter.
Phil, are you specifically asking about a video?
Yeah, like if we were to divide, because there's nothing like the face of a smiling little
Yeah.
kid, that's first time in her life she's been able to move 6 inches.
Oh,
So that's a big part of what we do. So we'd like to provide that. We can do it with photos, but it's still different.
yeah, I totally hear that. Right now, our technology does allow us to accept photos, but we're not quite to the point yet where it can take videos. So when you fill out your application, you will see that there's a spot for you to upload photos, and videos is on our wish list.
Awesome. The other thing is the devices that we provide, they come in a box and then either the school or the teachers or different people get involved, but there's some opportunity there for Nike employees to get involved. And I know there's like a Nike, they get credits or something like that if they're involved doing things. Can that be a part of the proposal?
I'm turning off. Help me understand the question for Nike employees.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
that. Yeah, there's like they get credits or something for
yeah,
volunteer time,
yeah.
and I
I'm
could, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I mentioned that earlier. It's called voluntary rewards, and what the employees would do after they volunteer with you, they'll go into our internal system and tell us how many hours they volunteered, and we will immediately give them $10 an hour up to 250 hours a calendar year. Um, and that's cash they can turn back and give it back to their charity of choice through our Benevity platform. Um, so yes, encourage your employees to turn in those volunteer hours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then as far as the video, if you because again, the support documents, you can just do a Word document. If you have a link, just putting it, on that Word document so that we can link to it, something like that, we can then access it in that way.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Angela.
Hi there. I just had a question about whether the outcomes that are listed under the SMART goals, whether those should pertain specifically to the physical activity, or can we focus on what the behavioral result of increased engagement in physical activity can be if we're looking at behavioral and social emotional patterns?
I would say both.
Both. Okay. So like
Because
including we're increasing the time of engagement in recreational activity, and then we're also seeing this increase in these other things. Okay,
correct.
great.
100%.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or questions in the chat that I just don't see? Because, yeah.
Adrian, we just had a new one come in from Alicia. Does the NCIF look for proposals with the greatest impact reach, or is sustainability and continuous growth more important?
Kathy.
Does the NCF look for proposals with the greatest impact reach? Okay, so the thing we haven't talked about a lot is we have a team of Nike employees reading these proposals and offering recommendations back to OCF. What's going to make them excited about your application? I think reach is super important. Not in terms of quantity. If you're reaching 25 girls in a really deep way, that's more important than 250 girls, very cursory. So impact is really, really important. Continuous growth, we want to know that this grant is going to help you sustain your programming. If it looks like it's going to be one and done, that's not very compelling for a team to issue a grant. So what we'll be looking for in terms of sustainability is How many other grants have you applied for on this journey to keep this program alive? How many other funders do you have, or how many funders are you asking for money for grant to support this program? So I say both. Yeah. Does that make sense?
While we have a quick pause to see if there are any other lingering questions that haven't yet been answered, I do want to share one housekeeping thing. I put it in the chat. It is on the NCIF webpage at oregoncf.org. If you are applying for if this is your first time applying to any OCF grant, whether it's the Nike grant or anything else, if this is your first time applying, we do have an extra step that we're going to ask you to follow. You're going to need a nonprofit profile, and that needs to be set up on our side of the computer. So if you go to the OCF website, again, that's oregoncf.org. At the top, there's a little button that says My OCF. Click on that, and then click on Create a Nonprofit Account. That will trigger for our team to contact you and get you set up. That is going to take a couple of extra days, so please don't wait until February 16th to start your application. And again, this is only for organizations that have never applied to a grant program through OCF before.
Thanks for that reminder, Kim. And I'll also remind you all to peruse Oregon Community Foundation's website, because they do a lot of grant making throughout the year, and there might be some other opportunities for you to secure funding for your programming.
Randy.
Yeah, I've heard the term program and project on these grants, and I'm wondering if one of those is more than the other, or is it, for example, in the case I was talking earlier about the trail, we get the grant, we build it, we don't get the grant, we don't. It's pretty much that simple. The programmatic part is the trail organization is doing a lot of stuff elsewhere, but specific to the project, it's not a program. It's this specific. It's either we're going to do this one or not do this one. If that's not the way this works, if it's more programmatic, it's a little different. So can you provide any clarity about that issue? Because I hear you using terms program and project sort of interspersed, and it was a little confusing. What is it that the 550,000 is going to target?
So for even if it's a project, say that you're doing, you still have an element where people, if they use it, will get help. We want to understand it's not just about building it. What impact will those trails make, right? So you still need to add that portion into it, even though it is, it's capital campaign. Well, actually, I think with yours, we're not taking it in that sense, but still, it's not a matter of you just building it. We need to see what impact is being made. So I would say, regardless of saying program or project, it's more of that outcome that we're looking for. Right. And so when you,
it's part of a bigger thing. It's just the funding's only being used for this one little thing, just over here.
Exactly.
But it's part of a bigger, without it, the connectivity is lost.
Yes. So you can say by you building it, then how does it help that programmatic piece, and what are the impacts that are going to be made because of it? That's what we want to hear. That's more important than whether you say project or program. And
that clarifies things. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, Kim, you have anything you want to leave, or Kathy, as we close? And we're giving back like 30 minutes. So it's only about...
I was just reading Lisa's chat. Mm-hmm. And I recognize there might be some questions in here, Adrian and Felicia, that didn't get answered. What's the best way to get those answered? Maybe I'll ask you all to reach out to the OCF inbox and ask your question again if we didn't get your answer. We're really good about getting back to you quickly. So So for Lisa, she's an organization that impacts youth and adults with disabilities to play baseball. They want to apply for a grant to help keep parent costs down. Yeah, you're applying for not necessarily a scholarship, but you're applying for funding to support maybe the parts of the program that cost you money, to pay for those so the parents don't have to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wonderful. And again, the email is there, the OCF-Nike fund at oregoncf.org. Just email us your questions and we will get back to you promptly. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. On behalf of Nike and Oregon Community Foundation, we want to thank you again for your time. And again, each of you are leading really important, inspirational work in your communities. And we thank you for that. We know it's hard work. We see you, and we look forward to reading your applications and your stories.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you, everyone.
everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye.